Welcome to Curious Salma. My guest today is Mahmoud Mousa. Hi, Mahmoud. Thanks a lot for joining me today.
Hi Salma, how are you?
Thanks a lot for joining me. We agreed to try a different format here. So basically, you signed up for to be a guest on the podcast without um, us knowing each other, right?
That's right.
And so we didn't spend time before recording, getting to know each other because we agreed that it will be fun to do it while recording. So, first of all, I want you to introduce yourself.
Sure. So my name is Mahmoud. Well, by education, I'm actually a mechanical engineer, but right now I work as a software developer. I live in Sydney, Australia. I've been here for 4 years. I did my degree in Malaysia, actually. So I spent like 6 years living in Malaysia. Yeah, I think I've traveled around quite a bit. So I was born in Saudi Arabia, grew up in Egypt, did my degree in Malaysia, and then I live now in Sydney. I run Al Khimyai page on Facebook where I blabber about things sometimes from time to time. That's about it. That's me.
So, let's start by asking you, what are you curious about?
What am I curious about? What am I not curious about? I'm a very curious person. Everywhere I go, I usually just assemble books about different topics. So what am I curious about? I'm curious about life. I'm curious about meaning. I'm curious about science in general. Not as much philosophy, a bit more. Curious about what's going to happen tomorrow. Yeah, I'm curious about everything. What am I not curious about? I don't know if that will give you substance to continue the podcast. I think it should be a bit more specific. But I'm really curious about philosophy and the meaning of life. I think that would be a good segue for now.
There isn't a part of should and shouldn't. Like, this can be whatever we want to be. So, there's a lot of freedom here. When did you discover that you're interested about science?
Well, since I was in secondary school, maybe. Yeah, I think my interest in philosophy has been a bit more than my interest in science in general. But I've always been a bit more scientifically and mathematically inclined. I grew up in a my family is full of doctors and pharmacists, so I was the only one who was more into the mathematical side of things, and that's why I became an engineer, I guess. But maybe in secondary school is when I was trying to make like an airplane with strings and make sure if it can fly or not. So we live in the fifth floor, fifth level in Cairo, and I wanted to make an airplane that will drop from the fifth level, but then it will stay kind of like balanced as it flies through. Not the one with the not the one with the paper, but one that can carry something. So I think that was the start of it, maybe.
And did it work?
No, it didn't. I hope this was one of the stories. It's like, oh yeah, the child, the young
Child
person who
genius.
did. Yeah, yeah, no, 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 it didn't work. It didn't work. No. So I studied mechanical engineering, and I made my career shift to. Actually, it's been more than 2 years now. It's been 2.5 years now. So I studied. I self-taught myself how to code, and I became like a software engineer, I guess. I reached the conclusion that passion is not everything, and then you should be more inclined into making sure that your passion kind of intersects with reality or what works where you live, something like that. So we can talk about that later. But basically, I reached the conclusion that I need to change my career into something else that fits the world that will happen in the future, kind of thing, something that will sustain me for the next 30 years. And so I learned how to code, and I became a software engineer, and it's been a really interesting ride. I absolutely love it. It's a very pure form of problem solving, and I always thought that engineers are nothing but problem solvers. So yeah, I just love solving problems, and whether the problem is mechanical, physical, whatever. In code, there's a lot of problems. It keeps throwing problems at you, and it's really so much fun actually. Like for me, in this desk here, in front of my two screens, whatever, just playing some background music and just writing some code is an extremely beautiful flow experience. So yeah, I have no regrets. I absolutely love it.
How long did it take you to learn coding?
4.5 months, I think. Yeah, 4.5 months. I have actually been logging my hours. So from the time I started to learn to the time I got my first offer, purely was 276 hours of learning. It's a very nerdy thing to do. I actually did count my hour, log my hours through my learning process.
That gives me some hope. Although I really suck at math, but I have been trying to learn some coding on the side every once in a while. And there are websites that tells you, yeah, it will take you 4 months, but I don't know. I'm skeptical.
Full time. I mean, like I'm talking about full time, as in like I wake up at 5, just like pray, and then get out of the house, go to the gym, come back, have breakfast, and then study for like 5 hours, and then have lunch, and then do another 4 hours every
Wow,
day for
very
like 4
committed.
months. Yeah, yeah. So the thing is, like, I quit my mechanical engineering job, and I was running on my savings here in Sydney. So I had to do this, else I had to. I don't know what else would happen, to be honest, but yeah, it was quite an interesting period. I actually absolutely loved it, and I was running out of money, and then I needed to make this work, so I was very committed. Yeah,
Can I ask you why did you decide to quit your job as a mechanical engineer?
my specialization in mechanical engineering is manufacturing and design. I worked in Malaysia for a bit, worked in Egypt for a bit, and it was all just that, like manufacturing machinery, basically. When I came to Sydney, that was not available in a way, but it took me long to realize that you shouldn't be knocking at the wrong door, because even if it opens, it's still the wrong door. And that's when I realized that I need to either find work that has to do with the mechanical engineering that I like, or just move on to do something else. And at that time, I was actually working as a mechanical engineer, but I was working as a site engineer. So I was working with a mechanical contracting company. We were installing ductwork in commercial buildings. And it was an extremely stressful job. Like, wake up at 4, have to be on site at 6, deal with workers every day. It was a very stressful period in my life. And it was very apparent that something has to change. And I don't know if you know him. There's a guy called Scott Galloway, and I look up to him. He's really cool. And I was reading his book, The Algebra of Happiness, and one of the things he mentioned is something that goes along the lines of market dynamics will almost always trump individual talents. And it made me realize that if you're the best mechanical designer in the whole world, but you are in the wrong place where the market dynamics are working against you, it doesn't matter. It's irrelevant how good you are. If the market dynamics are not aligned with you, you're just fighting the market, which is a far bigger force. And that got me into literally like 3 months of my life just thinking about what I want to do next. And I put everything on the table, including leaving Sydney, including teaching English for living, including a lot of things. And during that time, also, I flew to America, and I attended my cousin's wedding. And I don't know, traveling always opens up your mind to different things. And I realized that one, the good things, something that's very hot in Sydney or in Australia in general is IT, and that it really matches my skills because I love solving problems. And I think the third one was that my realization that it's not about passion, or rather that people understand passion in the wrong way, or I understood passion in the wrong way, or to be more specifically, my generation has been fed that passion's something, but I realized it's something else. It's an extremely long answer, but yeah, we got there at the end. But yeah, that's why I just decided I need to move to get something else. I need to do this thing where I need to become a software engineer.
That's very interesting. You mentioned a lot of things that made me think about, just like considering things, changing your way, accepting that some things don't work out. Like there are a lot of good lessons in that story you just told. What's the best part about being an expat in Australia?
I think I don't I don't think being an expat here is just something very special. Like, I mean, Sydney is extremely mixed, and so I don't feel like it's something. Just being an expat is something special. Just living in Sydney in general, I love that there's so much opportunities around, and I absolutely love the city. It's gorgeous beyond description. There are a couple of things that I didn't like in the beginning, but got used to, I guess. I really hate how far it is from everything and everywhere. But otherwise, it's just the fact that the city is gorgeous and there's so much opportunities, and I can see a future here.
So, from an expat to an expat, for me, I really enjoy meeting people from different nationalities and working with them, like working in a
Right.
very culturally diverse environment. It adds to your experience and your personal growth a lot more than I would ever imagine.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I agree. I agree. Or maybe I don't feel it because I was kind of used to it already by spending the time in Malaysia. And here, yeah, but that's definitely the case here. Like, where I work, is a lot of people. It's a tech startup. It's growing insanely fast, and it's quite an interesting experience to work there. In the tech team, we don't have many Australians. Most of the people I work with are expats as well. It's quite interesting. I agree.
And what are some of the challenges of being an expat?
Homesickness is definitely a part. I mean, like, there's always give and take. Definitely, homesickness is definitely a part of it. I think there is a cultural difference between the West and the East in general, and I think that's always been a challenge. I'm not sure if you would relate to that. I haven't been to Dubai, so I don't know how's the culture there. But definitely, there's a huge difference in the culture, and you can see it almost everywhere. I'm thankful that where I work, the people are very professional, or maybe I also got used to the Western way in general. But let's just say that there's a specific warmth in Eastern cultures, and also specifically in Egypt, that you can't really find here. And I think that's a really big challenge.
The thing is, whatever we can say and complain about our home country, the warmth and friendliness of people is something that you can't find anywhere else. There are always some random things that people do that surprise you. And I still get to be surprised every time I go there, no matter how opinionated one can get. But here in Dubai, it's very, very, as I said, culturally diverse. So there is not one culture that is like dominating, and people coexist here because there are rules. They have to, like, if you abide by the rules, and you will have a great time. If you respect everyone, you will just enjoy. You will learn. You will do everything. So all in all, I think if you keep an open mind, you can have the best experience here. For me, I'm having that because, as I said, I'm getting to know a lot of people. I'm getting to have friends from all over the world. So that's a very big factor. Tell me about your morning routine.
My morning routine. Actually, I'm happy we're talking about this because I haven't been paying much attention to it. So I'm going to describe my perfect day, which does not mean that that is my today or my yesterday. So my perfect day is to actually wake up before sunrise, and then pray, and then after that I work out, shower, breakfast, and then read. And I used to do that all the time during my university times. Yeah, I used to read one book a day, actually, using this morning routine. One book a week, sorry. It was really good time. And then after that, I would just get to work, do something productive until 12. But yeah, it's basically this, like, pray, workout, shower, breakfast, and then read if there's time. Otherwise, I'll just get to do whatever I want to do.
Do you describe yourself as an introvert or an extrovert?
Happily or sadly, I'm an ambivert, which is somewhere along the lines of exactly in the middle. So sometimes I really want to be on my own, and sometimes I really need to be like with people, and it's showing significantly nowadays as I work from home. Like, everybody is very happy that everybody's working from home, and it's great. I absolutely love it. You can go in my company. You can go to the office whenever you want. It depends on the team. So I started going to the office twice a week because once was not enough because I live on my own. So that's just maybe an indication. But yeah, I'm an ambivert. So sometimes this, sometimes that. Yeah.
But being an ambivert is awesome because you get to have the best of both worlds, right?
I guess so, but not being consistent uh, is not good. I don't know if I mean, like, sometimes I really want to be among people, and I feel invigorated and energized after that. But sometimes I just don't want to see anyone. And yeah, I agree. It's just a more rich experience, but also a more intense experience because there's a change.
So recently, I found a quiz on TED that says, "Are you an introvert, ambivert, or extrovert?" So I did it, hoping that I would be an ambivert, but then I was like 90% extrovert or something. And then when I posted the results on Twitter, my friends were like, "Why did you even take the test? We know you're an extrovert." There's
It's so obvious, isn't it?
yeah. So I wish I wish I wasn't like okay, I like the being an extrovert, but I hang out with introverts a lot. And it's always a challenge, Mahmoud, because I want to do things, they don't want to do those
Hmm.
things.
I know. I
I,
definitely
I
know what you
I
mean.
spend
Yeah.
a lot of energy convincing them to go outside and do things, and so yeah. What would be the title of the book about you if your worst enemy wrote it?
That's an interesting question. Oh my god, this would sound really weird. The wasted life of an absolute genius. See, I
I
has to make you positive.
I love that. I love that. I love
Yeah.
that. To the best. What's the most important lesson you've learned over your career?
So I think the lesson that I learned the most was that to not really fantasize over passion, and to realize that in order to do, if you do something really well, and that thing will support you financially, emotionally, and support your aspirations to be wherever you want to be in life. And if you do it well enough, then you will end up loving that thing. And I think for me, I learned that that is actual passion, and that is very different from the idea of just following your passion. And okay, I don't know, you realize that you were born loving to paint, so you just want to make painting your career. I don't think, which is what I had in mind previously, which I don't think that's a good idea. I think it's better to understand passion as something that you develop for a career, in something that you like and have an affinity for, and also something that will give you support in every way, and something that is rewarding as well.
You want to know what I think?
Sure, absolutely.
I think there's not one version of what passion or what defines passion. Like your version sounds fine to me, but I think that some people are just really born, or they discovered their calling pretty early in life or at some point in life, and these people are lucky. But
Hmm.
for us that didn't discover their passion, or d- couldn't follow that passion and had to do different things different ways, they can still find passion doing different things.
Oh yeah, see, so if I were to comment to just what you said, I think I completely agree with everything you said. But the only thing I would add is not to not to wait to be one of those guys who are going to find their passion early on, right? And also, if you realize that X is your passion, then be realistic enough uh, to make sure that you are in the right circumstances where you doing X will flourish. Silly example: if your passion is doing leather artifacts or like leather stuff, and then you are in a city that hates leather, or like a vegan city where the culture is just completely against leather, doesn't matter how passionate you are about that, it doesn't matter how good you are at it, you're absolutely not going to make it your career. So I think the only thing I'll add is that just make sure that you are realistic about getting the right circumstances where your passion will flourish.
Absolutely.
I think that that's something that people absolutely miss. They will say something like, I don't know, you want to be a painter, then yeah, you can make it anywhere. I don't think that's a good advice. It's like no matter how good you are, if you're in a city that doesn't appreciate paintings, you're not gonna make it. And you should be practical and smart enough to know that that might mean that you need to go somewhere else, or to get some specific education, or. But just banging your head against the wall, it's just not gonna open. You just still got the wall.
I totally believe that if you don't discover your calling at an early stage in life, or your purpose or what you're passionate about, you shouldn't just wait till you find it. Like for me, for instance, in my career, I made many choices of me trying to discover if I like this or I like that, or I can be good at this or that, even without knowing that I'm passionate about this or this is the career for me. I have been just exploring, because I
Right.
believe that it's better to, keep exploring, keep taking steps,
Agreed.
than
Agreed.
to just wait till, suddenly you get the inspiration of, oh, I want to be this, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Agreed. I wanna, if I can ask, what do you mean by calling?
Calling is like your purpose in life. Like you find that, oh, I was meant to be, or I will be a good photographer, I'll be a good developer. This is what I'll shine in, that you can, like, anyhow. So we're talking about careers and, taking steps. For him, for instance, he found his career, that this is the career for him when he started at a job. He met a certain manager, and that manager, like, changed his perspective about things, and he discovered that he wants to be that thing, like, works at that industry. He was meant to do something else. So the thing is, I was discussing with him that I think there's an issue globally. It's a global thing that I was telling him that there is an issue everywhere, that you can work anything, but not necessarily that the job you're working at is the best thing that you can do in your life. It's just like based on a lot of things,
Right.
where you're raised, or your community, or the industry, the availability. So, for
Right.
instance, we all make a joke in Egypt at how many engineers and doctors we have.
That's right.
Do you
Mm.
think everyone should be a doctor and engineer?
Definitely not.
I
No.
bet like 60% of these people didn't want to be an engineer or a doctor, but the
Right.
how they were raised and many different circumstances made this like the only choice for them.
Spot on.
So my point with calling, or my point with the thing that you should be do, is the thing that you can actually be very good at, if you found it, if you discover that this is what I need to be doing. For instance, this podcast for me is I'm starting something to find out if I really enjoy it, if I'm good at it, if all of these things. I don't know the answer. I have to do it, I have to find out by doing.
100%. 100%.
So there are a lot of industry a lot of jobs or a lot of choices that you can make just to find out if you're good at it or not. But as I said, some people are just lucky. They know that from the beginning they are very good at stand-up comedy and they become Dave Chappelle, for instance.
Mm.
um, but some people don't. So I think, because now with technology and a lot of different things, you can know that, for instance, you're an ambivert who likes this and that and who's good at this and that. So now you know what type of jobs work for you. There is also like in interviews and stuff, sometimes they ask you to do a PI assessment and a cognitive assessment and whatever, and then it gives you like an insight on your personality, how you function at work, and the type of industries that work for you. So now with psychology and all of these things, it can start to give you clearer ideas on what you want to do in life. I hope this long answer.
No, no, I understand. I understand. No, and I think it's quite a balanced opinion. I have what could be considered a controversial opinion, which is slightly against it, a bit, like maybe a bit opposite to it. Um, so I don't know. Maybe if you want to discuss this further, but I don't think. I think calling and job should not be synonymous to start with. So I think one of the issues I have with these ideas, which I was absolutely all for before, is that I couldn't understand whether my parents had a calling or not. They were just regular people who did the best they could with the circumstances they were in to bring up a good family. But from my perspective, they will definitely didn't have a calling and they didn't change the world. I'm quoting with my hands. And I kind of was extremely fascinated with Steve Jobs, and I wanted to change the world and do something that's significant. I wanted to look for my calling when I was younger. And I realized that maybe this way of looking at things is not the best. It's not what's the word? It's not, at least from my experience, it doesn't provide. It's not beneficial for me at least. And the reason why I got to this is an extremely long story. Um, but I think that capitalism, I'll try to keep it short. I think that capitalism um, makes sure that you don't get, it's not there to provide meaning for you at work. That's it. So the capitalistic system is not meant to provide meaning for you. If you think that you really enjoy stand-up comedy, you can work in a subway serving people sandwiches because that works for you, and then you can do stand-up comedy on the side. And I believe your life will be as fulfilling as someone who is, I mean, like as fulfilling as it could be. Just because you're not good enough or to become like David Chappelle, that doesn't mean you didn't find your calling or something like that. Like for example, I picked up the guitar like 2.5 years ago when I started programming, and I actually picked it up to as a stress ball. So I was really stressed during that time, and I picked it up to learn something new and release my stress. I found out that I really like it, and it adds a lot of value to my life. But in my opinion, to say I enjoy this, it's my calling, I want to make it my career. Now, at 30 years old, I think that's wrong. At 17 and 18, I would have absolutely done that. And I don't think you should be looking for your calling in work. You should be, if your calling is to make a great family, then you should do that, regardless of what you do.
So calling, thanks for getting into this. Calling shouldn't be, or your job shouldn't define your worth, or shouldn't be the
Yes,
main focus about you. That's a thing that
exactly.
I've been extremely cautious of recently. I think it's recent this year, that I am uh, trying as hard as I can to like still be ambitious, have career goals, want to grow up, but still have some other. passions on the sides and things I'm doing that are important to me, causes that are
Completely
important
agreed.
to me. For instance, volunteering is one of them. So your calling can be anything. Your
Agreed.
calling can be to help people, to make people happy, to, as you said, start a family. It shouldn't be to be this and that. But the part I disagree with strongly is that you shouldn't find your calling when you're 30, or you shouldn't find do completely different things than what you used to do when you're 50, because it's not realistic. The whole thing about like realistic or trying to, I think it limits your potentials a lot when you think of your circumstances and the environment around you. And let's not dream big. I think anyone can dream as big as they want and can do things and can change, but they have to go through a lot of challenges. It's never going to be easy. And if you focus on the people that's easy for them, then you'll not go anywhere. You have to realize that if you want to do something, you can go for it at any time, at any age, at any location. But you will you will have challenges. You'll have to go through them. You have to have resilience and stamina and learn from your failures. Like, it's a lot of different factors and equations. But I would never ever tell someone at 50 who wants to start having a job, that maybe you should focus on your family because it's not realistic for your age right now to have goals, these kind of goals. You know what I mean?
I did not mean that when you're older you should be thinking in a different way. I just meant that my opinion now is this, and my opinion before used to be that. So I wasn't really comparing in terms of ages. And I actually agree with what you said. You can try to be whatever you want to be at any stage in your life, and that's absolutely fine. The only thing I would add is to not lose touch with reality, which I think a lot of people do. And that, for example, if you want to be a gymnastic at the Olympian level, I would say it's pretty late to start at 30, right? And again, I'm just giving an example at the extreme, just to give an idea, right? But that does not mean that you shouldn't do gymnastics on the side to have some fun. And also, that does not mean if you are from a very low income country with absolutely no coaching, you shouldn't be dreaming about becoming an Olympian gymnast. That's not what I'm saying, right? I think you should. If that's what you think you want to do with your life, then you absolutely should. The only advice I would give to someone like that is to understand the importance of being in the right place. So not only focus on this is my passion, I really want to do it, but also focus on what are the circumstances that will make it easier and better for me to do that passion. So that's the only advice I would give to someone like that.
I think to be somewhere in the middle. My perspectives comes from an idealist person who, yeah, had very dreamy goals at one point in life. We all were when we were teenagers, but like, for idealists, they always try to not think in with the construct of what is real and what's not, because I feel
Right.
like visionaries and people who really change stuff in the world did not stop themselves, or did not limit their potential by what's there right now, what the
Agreed.
real life is. So
Right.
I think that there is this perspective, but what you're saying as well is very important, is that whatever you're planning or whatever you want to do, you have to take a look around. You have to consider these different things before jumping into the water, which I don't disagree with. But I feel like the world needs all sorts of people. The world needs people who jump first
100%.
before they think
Agreed,
and
agreed,
go
agreed.
along and learn from the process. And they need people who calculate everything and look at the water for an hour or two before they decide to jump. You know what I mean?
Look, I think like those thoughts that you just mentioned now, which is like to be that or to be this, and the world needs both, and what should I be? I think a really good summary, to me at least, is the sentence that you should focus on being effective instead of focusing on being right. You should focus on being effective instead of being right. So, in other words, being effective it should take more priority than whatever your passion is and whatever it is that you're trying to do. Being effective as in just making progress. And I think it's something that I learned maybe in the past 4 years, like, and that goes back to my career shift as well. um, I learned, and again, like you mentioned, not everybody has to be like that, and if it works for me, cannot work for you, cannot work for someone else. I completely agree that people should be different. The world needs everyone. But for me, at least, it's just like, if you want to get ahead in life and get to the things that you actually want to get at, dreaming about being a mechanical designer in Sydney is not a good idea. It's not practical. And instead of focusing on, this is my passion, I love it, I really want to do it, I am right, you should focus on, I need to be effective at getting at the end goal. So what can I do now? And it's like you mentioned, maybe that way of thinking will kind of like drown you in reality in a way. But I believe you should at least bring that into the conversation. Try to balance in between. You should definitely try to be a visionary, but just make sure, and I'm saying this to myself before anyone else, because I used to be extremely dreamy. Make sure that you don't lose touch with reality. Try to be effective. Focus on being effective.
Great. Great food for thought.
Anytime. هذا حاجة عندي. No.
Like too modest as well. The more I talk to you, what's your favorite productivity hack?
My favorite productivity hack, waking up early, to be honest.
Cool. So you wake up at 5 a.m., as you said, and you have your own routine, right?
Yeah, yeah. And sleeping well. Sleeping well is, people underestimate that. Sleeping well. Even if you have to take something for it, to be honest, I sometimes take magnesium just to sleep well. Because, like, yeah, really, the sleeping well is extremely, like, yeah, I really underestimated it.
What makes you feel inspired, like your best self?
When I climb walls. Have you heard of cold water, cold shower therapy, CST?
Cold shower therapy. It's like the one in
Yeah.
Iceland where they put themselves in cold, very cold
Yeah, so
water.
that's an extreme version of it. But, like, yeah, cold shower or cold water exposure is a very interesting tool that I've had in my in my life for a while now. But I think one way to think about it is, a wall is something that you know that you have to do, but you can't, but you don't feel like doing, or you can't do. And that can be literally anything. It can be taking the trash out. It can be walking yourself into the shower to take a cold shower, or it can be going to the gym today, or it can be getting to work, right? And I feel like my best self if I climb 2 or 3 or 4 walls in a day. And sometimes that wall is literally taking the trash out on a bad day. And sometimes that wall is jumping into the cold shower because I just know that I have to do it today to be able to climb more walls. And the most miserable days are the days where I don't climb any walls. And they happen quite a lot, actually.
And how do you deal with them?
Taking cold showers help because apparently, like, there's a lot of neurochemicals involved, and I can get into it because it's very interesting. But basically, it rebalances your dopamine levels, so you feel more naturally motivated to do things. So yeah, getting in a cold shower is extremely useful. On the other times, going back to me being an ambivert, actually getting among people really helps me. So you're just getting out of the house and being with friends really helps in that time.
Me too.
Yeah, nice. Going by the beach, extremely nice tip.
Me
Just
too,
do
as well.
nothing. Yeah, go by the
That's
beach. I
one of
think.
the things I do.
Yeah, it's. I really didn't believe it in the beginning when a friend of mine told me the sea or the ocean really absorbs all your negative energy. I thought he was exaggerating, but he's definitely not. Like, just spending time by the beach is very powerful. Yeah, that's how I deal with it. I'm praying, obviously. If you do it properly, it's something else.
What's the best compliment you've ever received?
You have makeup on? That's the compliment. Somebody asked me, "Do I have makeup on?"
Oh, wow. And what was your response?
I was like, "What? Who? Me?" And then she was like, "Yeah, yeah, your eyelashes are very long and beautiful." I was like, "Oh," and then I started blushing, which made it worse.
Oh, sweet.
But yeah, that's definitely the best compliment I've ever had. I mean, like, this is a like, it's definitely on top of my list. I can go down the list for something more meaningful if you want.
No, 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 no. That's perfect. That's perfect. Yeah. I think they are jealous of our eyebrow, of our lashes. Other
Yeah, I think
cultures. We have long lashes as Arabs.
that's right. We do. We're like
Yeah.
camels.
There is a fun topic. as if we're not having fun enough. How did COVID affect your life?
Oh man, that thing. God damn it. Where do I start? I mean, I was extremely lucky, and alhamdulillah, yani, I was extremely lucky to have made my career shift before COVID, right before COVID. So I started working as a developer in January 2019. Was 2020? 2020, sorry, 2020, yeah. And then March, everything shut down. So career wise, income wise, finance wise, everything that like I was just floating, and I was extremely, alhamdulillah, I was extremely lucky too. Everything, the stars literally aligned for me.
It felt like
However,
the rise for software engineers, actually.
it is. It is. It
Yeah.
definitely is. Yeah, the market in Sydney is now insane just because of that. Because they closed the country, nobody's coming from outside, and like the demand is so high. Like we literally set every condition, working condition that we have. So it's great. So that's one thing. So that went well, alhamdulillah. Um, Lockdowns just were absolutely brutal. So the first long one we had in Sydney, I was living in a shared house. So it wasn't as bad because we were always together, like cooking or doing whatever. The second lockdown took a really huge toll on me. It was miserable times, to be honest. I ended up, I don't want to say ended up in the hospital, but ended up really stressed. And apparently, I don't know if this is a fact or not, but apparently for me, even after the lockdown ended, my body, the stress carried over or whatever. So I started getting heart palpitations, and I had to go to the hospital and to get checked. And the doctor just told me, "You're absolutely fine. This is probably just stress." But I was after the lockdowns. But yeah, definitely the lockdown just hammered my body and my psyche. That was not good. I couldn't go home. Couldn't go to Egypt for how long? For 2.5 years, right? Yeah. So 2018 December is my last time I was in Egypt, and I went back this December last year, so 2021. So 2 years I couldn't go back home. The sickness of just being worried about my parents getting COVID in a different country was absolutely terrifying. Like, yeah, just the stress levels were insane.
My dad actually passed away with COVID last year.
Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that.
Yeah. So thank you. In the beginning of 2020, I spent 2020 with all of that anxiety you're actually mentioning. Worried about my parents getting COVID or my family, or and then in 2021 it was my dad, my grandma, and my step grandma. They all of them died in the same month. I want to ask you, how did you handle the stress? How did you handle when you realized that you have internalized all of that stress from COVID? How did you handle it?
Not very well, I guess. The thing is, maybe at that time I didn't have the vocabulary and the enough the level of self awareness that I have now to realize that this was really, really affecting me. And I wish I had, to be honest, but I didn't. Um, but I started doing things just naturally. You just feel bored or feel not very well, even without putting that title on it that you're being really stressed. So I started going out to the beach every weekend. Thankfully, I lived within 5 kilometers of the beach because the lockdown was only 5 kilometers. So I was really, really thankful that was the case. So I went to go to the beach every weekend. I just walk by the beach really helped. I assembled my friends from uni. We had a meeting online, which has lasted for 6 hours. We haven't talked to each other for like, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years. We literally spent 6 hours online, like 14 people, 14 person together. Like it was really good. Um, and the guitar, obviously. Oh my god, I got much better at the guitar because it was literally my stress ball. Yeah, I literally had it next to my desk every time. I just hold it and just play a little bit. So yeah, that's what I did.
I've done two of these things you mentioned, exactly two of them, or three of
That's
them, or
great.
like
That's great
not the
minds think
same.
alike.
There was a time in the beginning of the lockdown when the access to the beach wasn't allowed. So me and my friend, we would drive and then go by the beach. We would like walk, like we see it from a distance, but we can go to
Okay.
like the sand, you know. So we were just
Yeah,
like,
yeah, right.
oh, we smell it, we can smell the
Yeah,
beach.
yeah.
We were just happy to be near the beach. So yeah, when we reminisce about these days now, we are very grateful that things are getting better and that we can get to be by the beach now. It's super busy. It's the season. What did you learn in the process of all of this?
Yeah, that's a good question. I learned a lot about stress and being stressed due to not seeing people. I think I never explored that kind of like aspect of life before. That humans are by definition extremely social, and it's just not a good idea to literally just jam someone in a room and ask them to sleep, work, and live there, which is exactly what I had to do. So I think that was a really good lesson because now I actively make sure that I see people. And I think I wasn't like that before. But I really like actively make sure that I go to the office twice a week at least. That's something I learned. Another thing I learned is that stress is quite an interesting thing. I don't know why. It's not something that you can, if you feel sad, then you feel sad, that you know that you feel sad, right? If you feel happy, you know that you feel happy. For some reason, I can't tell if I'm stressed. I don't know if that's everybody, but like for me, I only know after the fact when after something goes away or after the situation itself. It's quite interesting because I learned that it's something that you need to be on the lookout for because you just I don't know I can't articulate it when I'm stressed. It's quite interesting, but something I learned like having going through that experience and especially like kind of like ending up in a hospital where I need to get checked was very interesting because like yes you are stressed, but looking back I didn't feel that something was killing me or like something was stressing me.
Because the signs of stress and anxiety is different from one person to another. Like there are the common signs that people would think they are like across the board, but then each person and each body can articulate in different ways. So for me, I have IBS, irritable bowel syndrome, and I got a lot of it took me a lot of time to accept it. So during 2020 I used to go to the doctor a lot and complain of my stomach problems and bloating and all. He's like, you have IBS. I'm like, no, this is not IBS, this is not just IBS, it's something more. But he's like, no, it's very common for women in your age actually. I receive a lot of female patients who complain of the same things. So for instance, I sometimes if you're not reflecting enough and you're not, because reflection is the way to know, have check in with your body, know if everything is okay or not. If you're not reflecting enough, sometimes for me it manifests in having IBS where I can
Right,
eat
right.
anything and just like my body is telling me slow down or focus or try to, relax, go to the beach, go to the movies, do something different.
That's very cool. I wonder what's the science for me. I don't think I know yet. This is a very interesting point. I've never thought about it before. So, what is the sign where your body is telling you that you're actually stressed and you need to do something?
Exactly. For some people, there are headaches. For some people, there are, as I said, bloating. Sometimes it gets to like muscle pain actually on your shoulders and on your neck and that part of it's a lot of different things actually.
Yeah, and I'll keep an eye for it, but I don't think I have the answer for myself so far. See, it was something to learn, I guess. But yeah, really, I don't know.
Let's get to a fun topic, food.
Food, yes.
Yes, us Egyptians, we live for food. But I want to ask you, do you eat to live or live to eat?
I eat to live. I'm not that much of a foodie. I'm sorry. I eat to live.
Oh,
You feel bad for me now. I know.
see,
I
I'm
know.
like
I know.
this.
I can tell.
What's your favorite food?
I actually like Japanese cuisine quite a lot.
The
So
noodles and
it's
the ramen, and
yes, the sushi, the udon, the
I
sushi
like udon
again.
as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love that stuff. I really like it very much. Yeah, and I cook for myself. I don't cook Japanese, but I cook Egyptian, Indian.
You cook Egyptian food?
Yeah.
What can you do?
Our rice, obviously, that's the standard, and I don't know, sanait batatas, a potato. How do you say that in English? A potato pram? No, not really.
Tagine?
Tagine, yes, I guess, yeah. Chicken in all sorts of way. I'm not a big meat guy. I just bought a rice cook. Sorry, a pressure cooker that's arriving tomorrow. So
You can do
I wanna
vine
cook.
leaves.
No,
You
what are
can
you
do
on
the
about?
mahshi.
No, 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 definitely not. No, no, no. I cook for myself only.
it
Thank you
takes
very
it
much.
takes actual skill. I
That's
think this is
absolutely
a
fine.
dying art. I'm afraid of it because
Dying art.
I
My
feel,
mom still does it, so it's okay.
yeah, my mom still do it and she do it like it's the best way, I would argue. But like, I mean, our new generation don't have the, I don't know, maybe I'm assuming, but I feel it goes with the with
Yeah,
our
yeah.
parents' generation,
That's
you know.
right. It would be a dying
That's
art.
the
Dead.
scary part. What's the best life lesson you learned from a movie or a book?
Wow. That's a deep question right there. What's the best? Oh, actually, I have an answer. Oh my God. How do I have this answer? I have an answer. There is a book called Man's Search for Meaning. It's by Viktor Frankl. It's my favorite book, and it's absolutely a must read for anyone. So the life lesson that I learned from that guy, Viktor Frankl, is that you shouldn't ask what's the meaning of life. You should rather realize that life is always asking you what meaning do you want to make out of today. And that will give you those small meanings of day after day after day after day. But the grand meaning can only be found with your core beliefs, basically religion. And also the grand meaning that you can comprehend can be found at the end of your life. Just like in a movie, every scene makes sense, but you can never understand the full movie until the end.
Wow.
I'm actually proud of myself that I actually could put all these details in one simple paragraph. I should be writing. Damn it.
Glad I made you find your calling, I guess.
Oh yeah, that's it. I'm going back to my blog. That's it. That's it.
Okay. What's one question you wish I had asked you?
Okay. um, that's an interesting question. I don't know. I didn't have any expectations of questions to be honest when I came along, so I honestly don't know. Right. So that blog. Sorry, I'm going back. I'll answer the song question. So that blog has my cancer journey. I thought you'd
Oh,
ask questions about that.
what?
Yeah,
What?
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You didn't even make a look there. Ah, see.
I told you I do zero research for my podcasts.
Ah, that's
Oh my
brilliant.
god.
Look at you. You have a brilliant future ahead of you doing podcasting, you know?
I would be embarrassed, but I told you like I want to keep a different approach, fresh mindset, but that's super interesting.
We can have that in another episode if you want. It's a long story.
So your journey with cancer is on that blog.
It is. It's definitely on the blog. I only wrote maybe 4 episodes. I was gonna write like a whole novel, but I only wrote 4 episodes. Yeah, from forward, episode 1, 2, and 3. I think. Yeah, you can take a look. And yeah, that's what I remember. If that's the full blog.
So where can listeners find you online and learn about your journey?
On Twitter at Mahmoud Mousa, Mahmousa. I think that's would be the best place. I have a blog at Mahmoud blog, but I haven't blogged anything in a while. Life has been very busy. I should go back to it. I actually really enjoy it.
So where did you write about your journey or record it? Is it on that blog?
It's on that WordPress blog, so I can bring it up. Um, I don't think it's public anymore, but yeah, I can bring it up. It should be there somewhere. Yeah, I think I had 4 episodes there.
I guess I'm speechless, and I'm also very, very grateful that you're here now and that you took that time to be on the podcast with me and that you shared some of your wisdom and some of your thoughts that are interesting because they have been stimulating. They have made me, use my critical thinking, I would say. So I really enjoyed the time we've been talking. And thanks a lot, Mahmoud, for joining me.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me around.
Bye.
خلاص كده بح.
That's not a good ending. I'm very thankful. I think there's a lot to learn more about you from that and your journey from on your website, on your blog, on your Twitter. Not yet. It's still. No, I mean it's okay. I can tell you some insights. مثلا 50% are from Egypt and UAE,
Right.
and some the other 50% is from all over the world. The age group is between 25 to 35,
Okay.
mostly females,
Cool.
60%. Yeah.
Can you get my number?
Yes, that's the ending I'm looking for.
I'm gonna open my DMs on Twitter, guys. That's it.